Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.
I'm Al Bledsoe, Veterans of Foreign War, Post 1108.
And I'm Ron Chappell, co-host here with Al at Proudly We Serve. We're glad that you tuned in. Al's going to introduce our guests, and we'll move on with the program.
We're pleased today to have Gregory Tucker from the Dayton VA. He is the outreach director there. So we've got a lot of ground to cover here this morning, so hopefully we can get started. And
Yes.
Greg, why don't you start with that and introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit of what you're doing.
Okay. Well, as Al had mentioned, I'm the outreach specialist at the Dayton VA. I've been with the Dayton VA for 10 years. I started out working in a nonprofit organizations, but as far as my career, pretty much my career spanned pretty close. I'm going to give my age away. For about 30 years. Started as far as with organizations, again, nonprofit organizations, but they were veteran-centric also. And it was working with homeless veterans, helping veterans find employment and housing. Part of my duties now as an outreach specialist is to find all those veterans who are not utilizing the health care which they earned, as far as with the Dayton VA.
I was going to ask you, because when I think of outreach, like at the church outreach, we outreaching, reaching out to get people, find them, and help them the best that we can.
Exactly, and that is exactly what we do. We try to participate in as many community events as possible, because that's where veterans are, and that is because they're part of the community.
Yeah.
And if you really look at it, probably every third person, or maybe depending upon the area, it may be more veterans as far as there.
Yeah.
We have a good veterans presence in Wayne County. We had started a food pantry. It's been probably, 14 months probably? And it's just been horribly successful. We've run into supply issues now, but so we held it at 80 to 85 every month. But it's veteran centered. In fact, you have to show your ID card to get a box, as we say. But that's how strong the veteran community is in this town, that it really, and we've been very fortunate that they support what we do. And if you come to Richmond as the outreach director and you're promoting something, you'll see that they'll support what you're doing. They've just really been good about that.
Somebody told me that I think the data shows there's about 5,000 or better veterans in our area.
Yeah, 5,400, I think.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the things that we've tried to do, and I'm asking here, do you find it difficult to get the veterans to respond to what you're trying to do? Before we get into specifics of what you do, are they responding?
Are they hesitant? I would say in some cases they are. And in some cases it's confusing because it's navigating the system. And sometimes veterans, they feel that I've done my duty and I fulfilled my commitment, and that's it right there. And if I utilize the VA healthcare services, I may be taking away services from a veteran who probably needs it more than I do. One thing that we find a lot of, as far as with veterans, is veterans tend to put more of others before themselves.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the health care, they may not even, I'm not going to the doctor because that's something, it may be something major because there's an old saying, small things make big things happen.
Sure.
So they may say, well, no, that's something right there. I get that all the time. It may be a cramp in my leg. I get that all the time. I'm not going there.
Been there.
And, they're going to brave through it, male or female. They're going to tough it through it, but it's not always the best thing to do.
Right.
And that's what we want to encourage them, and that is they've served the country, and we want them to continue to serve the community. They can't do it if they're incapacitated or they're no longer here. So that's where the VA is, and that is fulfilling Lincoln's promise, and that is caring for those who have borne the battle.
Right.
And that's what we do.
I can
I
see
think
that.
that's what you said is you've really hit on something because I had a couple of young ones at the dealership that we got signed up for health care. It's amazing to me, you almost have to beat them over the head with a club to get them to sign up for health care, even though it don't cost them anything.
Yeah.
They just felt what you just said, well, it's better if somebody else gets that instead of me. And then some of the stigmatism around the VA with the way things have been done, and we're all adults, so we all know what that is.
Yeah.
So it really, sometimes that's harder than sell you, because you'd think that if I come up and said, look, I'm going to pay your health care the rest of your life,
What's up?
you'd think, okay, what are you on?
What I got to do?
So, and that's what you just said, though. It's amazing, the young ones that just think somebody else needs that. But working with the homeless, we're fortunate here that we don't have too many. I don't think in Wayne County. If we do, we sure try to find them and sure try to take care of them if we can. That's another issue that veterans don't like to bring that up, or they don't like to admit they need something. And
Well, you're a soldier, or you're a Marine, or you're a sailor. Hey, you stood the task of serving your country.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
So that's a problem. So
but they're always hesitant to do that. And we find that all the time with the pantry sometimes. And now it's getting to, we try to create the atmosphere that, look, you deserve this. We're not just giving you this. You actually deserve this. So it's just really, that's just a really crazy subject of trying to get people to go to outreach, go to different venues that you're having.
Oh, yes.
It's crazy to get people to do that. But,
So evidence has proven, supported the idea of the kind of service that you provide. So let's talk about the specific things that you do.
Okay, and that's great that you bring that up, because with COVID and things are constantly evolving, and it goes back to what Al had mentioned also, and that is about myths and misconceptions. It's sometimes you've heard something about getting your health care,
Right.
and it's something that people may say, well, I'm not going there. Well, what we've started doing, and that is we do different things as far as looking at our outreach. Again, we want to be out in the community as far as at the festivals, making sure that they are making that face-to-face contact, letting them know that, hey, we're veterans also. So a lot of our outreach team, our entire outreach team are veterans. So that way right there, we can relate far as to some of the places that they may have been. Some of the other things is pulling back the curtain. It's kind of like Oz, the Wizard of Oz. And that is you see all of these things and you know about it, but you don't see it. And what we do is, in pulling back the curtain, that is doing webinars, With the webinars, it happens once a month.
Okay.
And that is, we have a subject matter expert come on during the webinar. They'll give a presentation about that particular service, and they'll do a Q&A. So that way they can answer any of those questions that the person may have right there. And it's anonymous. So it's not where, okay, they may be a little hesitant, in a crowd or in person, but there's still that question on their mind. This way right here, they can actually, there's an old saying my grandparents used to say, and that is, get it straight from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
Right
Sure.
there. And that is by the subject matter expert. They have that question. They can go ahead and answer it. Now, if any point we don't know the answer, it's better when what we do is we let them know. We'll investigate it and we will follow up as far as with them. So usually we're reaching out as far as with postcards, letting them know this is when the webinar is taking place, so that way they can tune in. Now, another thing that we're doing to expand our reach, because everybody's not going to the festivals or the community events. Some people may not be looking at our webinar, but we also do a podcast. And that's another form where they're able to hear the experiences of another veteran, as far as how they view or how they received care with the Dayton VA. So our podcast, if I can say, the podcast is called My VA Dayton. And if you happen to be on your phone or on your computer, or just go to the library and you can type in My VA Dayton podcast.
And
That's really good, because I'm a real advocate of the health care. The VA, above anything else people have heard, I've always said, let me tell you about my experience, which has been nothing but, it took a year, I think, for it to happen, but it was protocol. They said, you have to go through all these tests and all this other stuff. I don't have any patience anyway, but I learned that looking back on it, I can see why they were doing that. But every experience I had with the VA medical system especially was top notch. I mean, I can't think
very positive.
I can't think of having any better experience. So that's really important that people hear stuff like that, because they just somehow they get something in their head and they just don't understand it or something.
Right.
So especially the younger guys. I notice the younger guys. We have a young guy that he's a Marine, was a Marine, and he was having some issues, and I thought, and he didn't get the response I think he thought he should have had, and then I called Dayton and I said, what are we doing? This guy needs help. And then just right away he was taken care of. But he's a little bit bashful. He didn't want to discuss the problem that much. And that's kind of what I think the problem was. He just didn't come out and say, look, I got a major issue going on.
Yeah.
So
Depends on the form of PTSD you may have, maybe a mental crisis or something like that, and the guys don't want to talk about that. Yeah.
Well, that's where the Dayton VA has professionals as far as in the broad area as far as of things that are veteran-centric. And that's all the more reason as far as to contact or to enroll as far as in the Dayton VA. So if I can leave the contact information.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that is
Sure.
if your audience is listening, and if there's a veteran who's not sure or have some questions, there are several ways that they can contact us. And that is utilizing, go online, and that is www.daytonva.org. DaytonVA.gov, and you can go to the website right there and navigate far as seeing what area that you're trying to connect with. Now, my telephone number at Community Outreach is 937-268-6511, extension 2035. And there's also the Richmond CBOG, that it's close, it's right here in the community, and you can contact them and they can help you also far as with the go through the eligibility and enrollment process.
Yeah, now, and that's a good point too, eligibility and enrollment. A lot of guys I've met, or a number of guys I've met, aren't connected with VA, and they'll say, "Well, I don't belong," and I explained to them my situation the very first time I went, which was a number of years, I have to admit. I was out for quite a while before I finally got connected. But when I went to the clinic, they actually helped me get enrolled in the system, and I got my card and all that from that first visit.
And that's one of the things right there, is to get them to take the first step. And that's what it really comes down to, is taking the first step. As we mentioned before, as I alluded to, and that is that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But it really, it's that's the thing, is choice. We encourage everyone. Every time I'm out doing an outreach event and I speak to somebody, I'm encouraging them. Let's go through the process. Let's go ahead and start the process.
Sure.
And in some cases, they'll say, well, hey, I don't have anything wrong with me. Well, my answer to that, or my response to that, is that it's better to have it in place and not need it, than to need it and then have to go through that process during that time when you have all these other things coming at you. So that compounds your stress. So right now it's taking that first step, and that's make the call. And let's start the process.
And you know what's good about that is you don't have to have anything wrong with you at the moment, but I get a wellness check every year.
Yes,
certainly.
Maybe every 6 months. But it's frequent. So, and you go in, you see the doctor, they go over your stuff, and if you need a test, you get a test, boom, you go home. If there's something wrong and they find it, they take care of it, But you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think those little things that guys object to, or women object to, and when it comes to joining the VA, you just have to kind of be pretty aggressive with putting that fire out. You can't, we can't solve the world crisis, but at the same time, if you deal with it on an individual basis, and if I hear a veteran that, well, I went to this guy and I just didn't get what I thought I should got, I'm pretty aggressive. I'll call that provider or that doctor and say, what are you thinking? Because that's the only way you can correct the system. And the guys that are in the system, or the guys that I'm around, I don't hear much negative. I mean, everything's pretty positive with VA. So whatever you're doing with this outreach and stuff like that's working, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking too, Greg, what about the spouse of the veteran? Do you provide that same service for them?
Now, with that, I'm going to be honest, I do not know. I can't answer that right there. And each situation is different. So right now, my entire mission or my focus is taking care of that veteran right there.
Right. Okay. I asked that, but my wife is authorized to get services through VA. And I think it depends on your situation, your type of discharge. If you got any service-connected disabilities or whatever, that gets them a little bit higher up into the system. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So is the focus mainly the health care that the
Yes.
VA has, or is there other things that,
Well, the
that
VA,
you deal with too?
The VA has, it's a huge, it has a lot of different areas. There's
right.
the VHA, which is the Veteran Health Administration, and that's what I do, is go out looking for veterans. Part of the outreach efforts is to have veterans, assist veterans in enrolling for us in the VHA, the Veteran Health Care.
Yeah, okay.
But there is the VBA, and there's the National Cemetery also. So those are three components as far as the Veterans Administration right there. But if I can say this, and that is, I commend you gentlemen on what you're doing, and that is you're providing information, tremendous information out there as far as to the community.
Yeah.
And it's, from what I understand, it gets picked up as far as in other areas also.
Sure.
So that's one of the things in this particular day and age is information is so readily available
Right.
there. So I have to believe that there's a lot of lives that has changed as a result of having that information become more readily available. So again, I commend you, gentlemen, on what you're doing.
You know, I think we when we first got this idea, both of us being veterans, kind of put ourselves in what do we need and what kind of stuff would our fellow veterans need. And so that was the impetus, I think, of what we're doing.
Exactly.
And then both of us love to talk. So,
Well, when we first started, though, looking back on it, we felt like it needed to be structured. And I can remember the day when we had a table in the middle
we had
and,
paper
and notes and everything else. And it got to be, really, do we need to do that?
Yeah.
Do we need to just be ourselves and just talk about stuff that's going on? And this
What they
community
need.
is just really, boy, it's just really good. It's got a lot of good people in it that work in the veteran community, and they're not afraid to say what they think. And that's to me, that's really important.
Right.
So,
So we need to bring on people like yourself to let the people know, what's out there, what kind of services are available, what can you connect with, don't think that you're out there alone. You got the whole family. We're connected.
All right.
sure.
Yeah. So okay. So again, so how would folks get a hold of you? Would they come to you directly? You gave the email address, or you gave the website.
I gave the website, and I gave my direct telephone number also, and that's area code 937-268-6511 and extension 2192 or 2035.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, Greg, now are you a veteran, or are you just an
Yes, I am.
right.
I'm a Navy corpsman.
Navy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Navy. Okay, I'm sorry.
Navy corpsman.
Round white hats. So,
I joined right after high school.
oh, wow.
And
So nice.
it was one of those things where the recruitment slogan at that time was, "It's not just a job, it's an adventure."
Yeah, I remember that.
And
Wait a minute, how old are you? I remember that. That was back in my day.
but I have to say, the military was a transformative period in my life because it provided me an opportunity for us to see the world and to broaden my understanding than besides just my neighborhood right there.
Right.
And a lot of the skills, I would say the majority of the skills that I learned through my service, that I was able to use those and transfer them back when I came back into the world, the civilian world.
Another good point. Yeah, another good point.
Yeah. Back into the world. I ain't heard that one in a while. Into the world, yeah. Okay, we got about a couple minutes left, guys. Anything you want to put emphasis on before we close out today?
Well, again, look out for our postcard or for our Facebook, and that is looking for the webinars. Be sure to check those out, because that way right there, you're able to find out more information about the various services that the VA offers, and they're being presented by the subject matter experts. So if there's something that you are curious about, or you're wanting to get more definitive information on, then check out the webinars. Also, listen for our podcast, because that's where you're hearing veteran stories where they're talking about their experience as far as joining the military, what was a motivating factor, along with their experience of using the VA healthcare system as well. And one thing that during this whole outreach mission, and that is veterans listen to other veterans. So that's one of the reasons, as far as more so with your program and with the podcast. Again, the podcast is My VA Dayton, and just Google it, and wherever you get your podcast, that's where you'll find it at.
That's great.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Greg, I'm so glad you had the opportunity to come by.
Same way here.
And you're welcome, man. Like I said, anytime you got information you want to get out to the community, and we can be a vehicle for that, you let us know.
Now, I was here, and I have to say, Veterans Park, I was here for an outreach event as far as at one of the companies here. They were doing a health and wellness, and we participated. And I went there, and it was like something I had never saw before. So I had my, I used up all the memory in my phone camera taking pictures, because it's
awesome.
a monumental moment. And, you know, when the 4th of July or as far as when the veteran events come around, I look at those pictures and I say, it touches on each one of those.
Amen.
Yeah.
Guys, listen, we're out of time.
Okay.
We got to go. Again, Greg, so glad you were able to come.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to make
folks,
it.
you be looking for us, all right? Proudly we serve, because we did, all right?
Thank you very much.
Bless you. Bye-bye.
Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.